officers, press the public attending this meeting of the corporate parenting panel. My name is Councillor Stephen Rowe and I am the chairman for this panel. Councillor Andrew Hayes, vice chairman of the panel, is also in attendance, and I would like to welcome Cindy Cooper from Barnardo's, who is attending the meeting today. So hi there.
Hi.
Welcome also to Heather Sandy, Executive Director, Children's Services, Linda Dennett, Assistant Director, Children's Health and Commissioning, who is attending on behalf of Tara Jones, Assistant Director for Children's Safeguarding today. Here. Andrew Morris, Head of Service, Leaving Care, Semi-Independent Living and Unaccompanied Children. Paul Fisher, Corporate Management. Welcome, Paul. Sarah Lane, Virtual School Head. Hi, Sarah. Rebecca Pinder, Head of Safeguarding Children, NHS Lincolnshire Integrated Care Board. Could you just could ask Henry, if you just give a little bit of a tilt on your card so the vice chairman can see when you want to speak. That's great. Thank you very much. Lisa Adams, Programme Manager, Barnardo's. Hi, Lisa. And Nicola Wilson. Nicola, I don't have your title down. Could I just ask you just to tell us?
Yeah, I'm designated nurse for safeguarding adults, children and looked after children for Lincolnshire Integrated Care Board.
Oh, that's the best one yet. Thank you very much. Welcome. We obviously have a recording which is slightly different to what I've got written down here, and as Nigel said, the meeting will be recorded and broadcast via the council's website. In which case, I would like to welcome members of the public watching this or listening to this, as the meeting is being screened, not in the usual way. I would like to begin with health and safety announcement. There is no fire drill planned this morning. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, we need to leave the chamber through that door and leave the building through the front door that way into the back car park, I think. Also, can I remind you to switch your mobiles off, laptop, or switch them down, laptops, mobiles and iPads, please. Okay, so first off, item. A bit more. If you wish to ask a question or make a statement in the course of the meeting, can you please raise your hand? Can I also remind members of the panel? No, that doesn't apply. We're not going to switch our microphones on. We'll now go into the formal agenda. Item 1 is apologies for absence, stroke replacement members. Do we have any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies from Anne Wright, foster carer, and Polly Coons, who may arrive late to the meeting. I can also note apologies from Tara Jones, Deborah Crawford, and Rachel Freeman.
That's great. Thank you very much. Second item is declaration of members' interest. Do any members wish to declare any interest that has not been declared previously in their pecuniary interest forms? Great. Item 3, minutes of the meeting of the panel on the 9th of November 2023. This item is to confirm the minutes of our previous meeting, which can be found on pages 3 to 8 of the agenda pack as a correct record. I've not been made aware of any amendment that needs to be made to the minutes in relation to the attendees, which is to, I have been made aware of one amendment that needs to be made to the minutes in relation to the attendees, which is to alter the scrutiny officer in the attendance from Kiara, scrutiny officer, to Tracy Johnson, senior scrutiny officer. So can I ask for a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Hayes. And a second, please. Councillor C, thank you very much. We will now vote on the minutes. You are voting on whether you agree the minutes are correct record subject to that amendment. All those in favour, please. Okay, so that was actually unanimous. So that was everybody, wasn't it? Thank you. Those minutes are agreed as correct and accurate record. Item 4, announcements by the chairman and lead officers. Just a couple of things from me. It seems a long time since the last meeting. So I should really say Happy New Year to everybody, hoping that I'm the last one to do it this year. I was invited to and attended foster carers' Christmas party which I just wanted to mention because it was actually quite a super event. It was a great opportunity to speak to some of our foster carers. Two couples stick in my mind, and totally opposite ends of their time as foster carers. One was a couple that had gone through the process of being accepted and had only just been notified a few days before that they'd been accepted, and was so upset that they then booked a holiday and won't be able to get a child in over Christmas and New Year, and they had to wait. I had to stress to them that we're just so grateful that that they were available and go away and enjoy themselves and then come back ready. The other end of the scale was an elderly lady and gentleman who the gentleman was carrying a baby. He told me that this was the final one when this baby went to the next stage. They were going to give up, and at that stage they both would have been 80. So I just wanted to pass those on and say what a super time it was and how much I appreciated it. Our visits to district councils has continued. Unfortunately, I had to miss the one at South Holland, but Andy went and did a presentation there, and they are all going extremely well. They're very positive, and I understand that Andy's meeting was very positive as well, which is great. And we're going to Boston for the second time next week. We've been there once before, but there was the last election, there was a big change, so we asked that we could go in and do some training. It's actually enjoyable, isn't it? Yeah, I do enjoy it. Yeah. So that's it from me. Do we have any announcements? Heather, did you want to?
None from me,
Thank you. Linda?
Not for me, thank you, Chair.
Just one announcement, just that Sarah Lane's been appointed as the permanent head of the virtual school as of 1st of January.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we move on to item 5, Children and Care Performance Report Q2. This item is on page 9 to 32 of the agenda pack and sets out key performance information for Q2 of 2023-2024 that is relevant to the work of the corporate parenting panel. The report will be presented by Andrew Morris, Head of Service, Leaving Care, Semi-Independent Living and Company Children. The panel is invited to consider and comment on the performance information contained in the appendices of this report and recommend any actions or changes to the Executive Council for Children's Services, Community Safety, Procurement and Migration. And there you're away.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, okay, so there was an awful lot of thorough pre-reading done last night when Rachel asked me if I could step in this up this morning, but that's not a problem. So I'll just present the report to you with some of those headline figures. All of the information is contained within the report, so I'll take some questions afterwards. But just some of the highlights in terms of those targets where we didn't meet target. And the first one being potentially children in care with up-to-date health checks. There's a little bit of narrative in there about the number of young people coming into care around the ages of 16 and 17. And what those 16 and 17-year-olds do exercise their right to not have a health check. And that does affect some of our statistics, and just say that 16 and 17-year-olds now also represent nearly a quarter of all of our children in care, so that a considerable number of young people have got the ability to exercise that right. But ordinarily, young people do continue to access high quality healthcare, and of course, the health reports presented later on within the agenda, where we dig down into some more of the detail about what's on offer to our young people for their health checks and general health and well-being. The second statistic where we didn't meet our objective was around potentially children in care with up-to-date dental checks. I think it's just to reiterate, this is against the background of a national issue with access to dentistry. We are working locally on a dental pathway where we're working with Lincolnshire Community Health Services and the University, and the dental, it was University of Birmingham, wasn't it, around setting up a dental pathway to identify hotspots and cold spots within the local area, within the local authority area, and to identify access to dentists. I think the recent statistics indicated we've recruited in the last year 3.4. I don't know what 0.4. How a dentist appears at 0.4, but we've managed to recruit 3.4 additional NHS dentists into Lincolnshire. That's not a high number. So there is against a national issue in terms of shortage of dentists. But when young people do access dentistry, or accessing high quality dentistry, and we don't have an issue with dentists offering the services as and when we do need that. But it's about those routine dental checks that we're not necessarily hitting the target on. Potentially children in care with routine update in immunisations. Again, we're still dealing with the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic and some of the shortage of access to immunisations there. But what we would say is overall, the rate of immunisation in children in care is above that of the general population of children that aren't in care. So our children in care statistically have a high rate of immunisation than the general population. And then the final statistic where we haven't achieved is care leavers education, employment and training. It's just say that has just dropped below our ideal statistic, and it's now just below 50%. I have done some digging into the data around that one. I can give some update if members have got any questions specifically about that area. But there's also a couple of activities I just wanted to highlight that have been undertaken recently to try and tackle the statistic. The first one being that we've employed on a 15-month initial trial period an education and employment aspirations worker through the virtual school that's going to be working and connected in with the Leaving Care Service, looking at actual employment, attainment of employment rather than just education, because sometimes our young people don't want to go into further education, actually they want to work. So we're looking at employment pathways there, and that's going to be linking into the Leaving Care Service and focusing predominantly on 16, 17, 18 and 19-year-olds, looking at that cohort where we do see young people drop out of education, employment training at 18. We're also, only yesterday, met with the DWP with their youth employment coaches now within the DWP. Every job centre has a youth employment coach who focuses specifically on 18 to 24-year-olds who want an employment. And we're looking at just picking up recently with the Leaving Care Service about some co-location of those youth employment coaches within the Leaving Care Service. Maybe the Leaving Care Service on an occasional basis being co-located with the DWP, so we can better share information about our young people and see what those opportunities are out there. That I think sometimes co-location, actually sharing some of those relationships and building those connections between workers will get better outcomes for our young people. And just say if we could, statistically, if we could get an extra 2 young people a month into education, employment training, that would affect our statistic by 6%. For 24 kids over a year, so that's 6 to 7%. So the gains are in the margins, but if we could get some of that co-location, then we're looking at employment, not just education, because not everybody wants to go into further education in college. Some of the areas where we've exceeded the targets is stability and placements of children, and that's a number of moves to our children in care. Stability of placement is really, really important for our young people, having somewhere stable, safe, comfortable to live, where they know who they're living with a foster care, be it family member, supported living or residential home. We've exceeded that target, and that's a really positive measure for our young people. And it's also one of our key strategic priorities within our children care and care leader strategy, about that stability and permanence that we all hopefully enjoy as individuals. We now, our children in care and our care leaders enjoy. Children in care cases were reviewed within the timescales. Again, is testimony to the hard work across children's services that we continue to exceed that target, as is participation of children in their care reviews. The involvement of our children in their planning is absolutely essential, and the fact that children are part of that plan enables them to understand what the trajectory is, why we're doing what we're doing, why we're working with them in the way we do. The young person's understanding is fundamental to their success. And then really the final one, which is 16 and 17-year-olds in care who are participating in learning. A significant improvement there in the performance data, and I'm sure Sarah's here that can take some questions about explaining about how we've come about and how we've achieved some of that success. Some of that's about really understanding our data alongside the really consistent hard work of our social workers in the virtual school to sustain young people in education and training. So the report's there. I'm happy to take some questions. I'm sure the officers around the room can support me in answering any queries that the members have got.
Okay, so the first one is Keza.
Thank you, Chairman. Andy, I've got 2 questions for you. One, do we have a percentage of cared for children that don't want health checks and what that equates to in numbers? And the second question is that it's good to see that that at least the cared for children are getting to see dentists when required. Do we have any feedback from foster parents who are having difficulties getting the children to see dentists, and what sort of numbers they may be? Because we've got vast areas of Lincolnshire that we don't have national health dentists available?
Okay, in relation to the first one, I don't know, but I can find out for you. Again, I've kind of come to some of this today. A bit cold, ready to present this, but if you,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a measure that we collect. That doesn't mean we can't get it. So if we take that away.
I just wondered how, you know, if it was a significant percentage or just one or two,
Yeah.
which are quite, as it was said, they're quite happy to respect their opinion.
Yeah, and I guess the thing is, quite often what we don't do is just accept not for an answer. We continue to talk to them about it, and we continue to try and persuade them how important it is to have a regular health check. But you know, some of them, their peers don't have that if they're not in care, so they don't understand why they have to have it. So that's but it's definitely something we can look into. It's not a measure we record, but we look into it and we'll feed that back to the committee. Thank you.
as part of the dental pathway, yeah, one of the things we're doing is every time a person moves into a foster placement, we send out the information with the foster carer to go when they go to the dentist to try and capture where we've got those positive engagements with dentists and where we don't have necessarily positive engagement with dentists. So yeah, we can get some of that for you. Again, I'll take that way and pick that up with my health colleagues and with the children and care teams to try and find out what that looks like where young people aren't able to access dentistry. But what I would say is just be really clear, it's only about the dental checks. If our young people need dental access to braces or a tooth removal, that would always be done. We'll always get that achieved as well. Those routine checks, but I'll find out for you.
They've not resorted to tying pieces of string
Absolutely.
to door handles.
No.
And
No, if young people need access to dentistry on an emergency basis, they'll always get that. It's about the dental checks. That's the bit where we've got some of the gaps. But I will find out for you. And we are taking feedback from foster carers, and that's part of the dental pathways, capturing what our foster carers are finding out on the front line. And then the dental pathway feeds that back to the ICB, to the care board, the integrated care board, to say, well, this is where we've got the gaps in access to dentistry, and that enables us to kind of do some of that forecasting and planning from a health perspective.
Yes, Matthews.
Thank you very much. Just by the by, there's a £400 million NHS underspend in dentistry. They've got the money, they're just not appointing the dentists. So that's just a by the by. You'll have a wry smile on your face because I want to ask about care leaves and education and clinical training. It's 2% down last year when we asked that we put some special effort into this. But I also want to ask, in the heading it says care leavers, education, employment training. The number of care leavers turning 90 year age in the year were in either education, employment or training, but there are no numbers as percentage. In some of the other measures, it asks for a percentage of children who are receiving dentistry. So are we misreporting here if we're required to report numbers by giving percentages? So that's the little technical bit that I'd please look at. Are we talking about 10 kids, 20 kids, 100 kids, 200 kids? And can you tell me a bit more about your appointment for 50? Because that sounds like a really good idea to not force them into training where they could be in work. And can you give us a little bit of indication of what they're receiving as benefits from the government? Because if they're not in work or training, what money are they receiving to, for themselves? Is it a disability allowance if they're saying they're not well? Is it unemployment benefit? I'd just be interested to know that.
Sorry, can I just start on the technical question about so the how we report in terms of what we're recording is agreed at council. So I think I understand exactly what you're saying. It says numbers, then we refer to percentages. So I'll take that away. But what we report is agreed by council, and then that's what brings about this report. And so I get the anomaly. I'll take it away, but we haven't changed the report. And
it's just an anomaly. That's exactly
what you said.
And I'm genuinely interested in the numbers.
Yeah.
Because it makes it almost more human.
You completely understand that. So I'll take that away. And have a look at that. But what the actual, what is it we're measuring, the target setting, all of that is agreed by the council, and then officers report to that. But I understand exactly what you're saying, so I'll take that away. And then I'll pass over to Andy to talk a little bit about the what we're doing.
Yeah, we can absolutely get the numbers, we just report percentage. That's not on the top. So, okay, in terms of the numbers, well, just give you an idea about some what goes on behind the statistics. I've done a bit more digging this morning, some of the finer detail. So of the 326 that we're reporting on here, which are 18, 19 and 20-year-old young people that are currently working, that's within this measure, 40 of those young people are unable to work due to illness or disability. And of those 11 young people, which is a significant improvement, I might add on previous statistics, 11 of those young people are former unaccompanied children who haven't got their status yet, so can't work. So within that measure of 326, we've got 40 that are unable to work at the moment through a number of particular reasons. So that's 12%, roughly. Okay, so that starts to have a look at, well, who is our cohort of young people that are unable to work or not in education, training, and employment? And what we've looked at is that at the age of 18, a lot of young people make different life choices at 18, which is their freedom and their right to do so. Sometimes there's a place to move about the age of 18. Some young people choose to leave foster care. We try and support wherever possible staying put because we know the benefits of that. Some young people choose to move area. Some young people choose to move back with family. And as young people start to move, and this is what we're starting to map out and find about our young people, is when they choose to move, there's often leads to a break in education. If somebody's in college in a particular area and they leave, I'm talking to Sarah this morning about access to education. If somebody at the age of 18 moves around about October 3rd day and you try and apply to another college after October, the colleges are full. You don't get back into college after October. So we're waiting for that cycle to come around another year. What we do see is our young people, we track every month, and every time we have a contract review meeting with Lisa and her team, we track the names of young people. We can watch young people leave education at a particular point and then get back into it. So we are dealing with something that's a little bit cyclical here. But then what we've done is we've worked with what we saw in the benefit in the special educational needs and disabilities team for the SEND, through those employment coaching and those vocational profiling, looking at young people and say, well, what can this young person do through the SEND team? Who then copied that across to say, well, let's do the same with our care leavers and have a look at employment in a different way and look at what those opportunities are. Because although I want to aspire for the very best for all of our young people, and what I aspire to, a young person might not to aspire to for themselves. They might want to do a particular job in a particular way at a particular time. And it's about working with young people saying at 16, if education isn't your aspiration at the age of 18, what are your employment aspirations? What are your employment opportunities? And the idea of the work coach is going to be is picking those young people out that Sarah and her team say, this young person in their EPEPs, PEPs, and in their children in care reviews, don't aspire to go to college or university. So they say, okay, how do we aspire for you to gain employment at the age of 18? And then the co-location of the youth employment coaches through the DWP, working alongside that new member of staff that we're trying to enrol with, linked into Leading in Care, we're hoping to see that young people are getting into employment and not just education and training. So I think some of the focus has been education and training, and actually employment might be their choice. We're going to see that start to make a difference to statistics for our young people. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of a flavour of some of what we're doing behind the scenes and what we're doing differently.
As far as the benefits that they would be on.
Actually, so I was going to consider that because benefits is not expertise.
So generally it would be sort of universal credit. Tends to be the benefit. Andy's right, those young people who have been declared unable to work would be supplying sick notes, etc., to DWP to be able to prove that. The other group of young people would be having appointments with work coaches, and ultimately will be encouraged to apply for posts because that would be part of the requirement for them to still get that benefit. But that doesn't mean that means that they fill in an application. Quite what they put on there is their choice. I think within Leading Care, again, like the posts have been Sarah's team, we've got a couple of dedicated posts that do that, what I call that hand holding, that very time-consuming, just one-to-one work, which is about going to appointments, introducing to employment opportunities, So I think those posts are coming. They're like I said, they're there in our service at the moment. Like I said, Sarah's looking at a post in her service. But obviously the cohort's quite a big cohort, and so but we do try and do that dedicated work. I think it builds on the back of the work that we brought to corporate parenting a year ago, really, which was showing the breakdown of that group of young people who aren't working, and the reasons that they are choosing or are unable to do so. But we absolutely target each and every individual young person. We track all of those young people. We are trying to do it at that level because we recognise that looking at as a whole group isn't the way forward. It is that dedicated one-to-one work. So we are absolutely trying to do that within our service, and obviously within virtual school, we're also trying to take that approach really.
So there's 286 18, 19, 20-year-olds.
326.
Yeah, but 40 of them can't work. Yeah, 286 who are not in education, employment or training, and that's 49.2% of what's not actually, it's a lower percentage. We're 6% behind our statistical neighbours. So in that regard, we're not doing very well here. It would be really helpful that I'd like us to have a bit more information about the stuff that you said. I don't doubt you're working on it, but I've been asking questions about this and pushing, and each time it's going down. So is it that we're paying more attention and it's worsening the situation? There's something not right. And as I say, we're sitting behind stat neighbours. I'm very impressed with that figure of something like 99% continuing contact. So I don't doubt that we're not engaged, not being successful in some areas, but there's got to be a key to this. And it's that's, as I say, 6 or 7%. Me compared to our stat neighbours means that works out about 8 children a year. We're not succeeding as well as others are, and I think we should be at least beating our statistical neighbours.
So this is where some of those new posts have come from, through looking at some of where our statistical neighbours, Nottinghamshire, for example. We've worked quite closely with Nottinghamshire, to have a look at what they've done around some of what they call their aspiration work, and that's what we're trying to replicate here, because we've seen how successful it's been for them. As I say, the success is in the margins. We could kind of slowly get these numbers back up as we start to see the impact of these new roles coming through.
My point remains that we've been raising this concern and getting those issues about why we can't, and the situation is worsening. So what I'd like to do is to keep a continual pressure on this and find out meeting by meeting what we're doing about this target, because it's so important that we get these care leavers into worthwhile engagement, if you like, whether it's employment, educational, training or anything. How many of these, how many apprentices?
We go, Heather, do you want to?
Yeah, just to say, thank you, Councillor Matthews. I agree. This is a matter that is A, being worked on, but B, it is a matter that we quite rightly are being scrutinised on. So I suggest that what we do is we do an in-depth discussion, and we think about how we want to do that, so that we can talk through all of this and perhaps bring a PowerPoint, go through each of the things, and then look at that impact cumulatively, look at, which I know you understand what's changed. So sometimes when a performance looks like it's got worse, something's changed. And actually, if you were tracking the original cohort, things would have got better. But so there is something about how do we, because what I'm hearing and what I know is that, and again, I recognise you've acknowledged this as well, we are doing lots of different things. We are working on lots of different things. This is something that we want to be back up there with and above our stat neighbours, because that's the position we enjoy being in. Let's be honest, we like to go extra for our children. So I think if councillors are happy, we will go away and think about how do we do a focus on that, where we can go through each of those things. We can give you a presentation, and again, perhaps bring a young person to talk about what that's meant for them. I understand you want to look at it strategically, but I agree with you. We need to make this human. We need to understand the barriers in this case. So if Mr. Chairman, you'll allow us, what we'll do is go away and have a real think about how we can bring that to life in this committee and get your views feeding into that as well.
Fantastic, and I'm truly not challenging that you're not doing the job. I'm not trying these things. what I'm trying to think is how strategic can we look at it? If we know there's 286 who are available to be engaged in this programme but are not, I'm sure you people in this room would know the names of those. If I pushed you, you could say there's Mary at this and there's Zahir at so and so. And I'm just wondering if we can give them a star rating about likelihood to return at the very least and start to do some targeted work. So looking at 10 of them, not looking at 286 of them.
So we couldn't do that in committee, councillor.
No, I understand that you could.
understand, and I
What
think
I'm
we are
saying is-
doing it.
Yeah.
So as I'm sure you'd expect, I think we're really clear which ones need a nudge, which ones need actually some more support in a different area before they're going to be engaged. But we can talk to you about how we do that in committee.
So
That's,
can we let Heather go off and come back?
Yes, please.
thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Say that, Colin. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to labour the point, obviously, congratulations on all the fine work, it's a brilliant report, thank you. But just to pick up on that, and those children who are not in educational training or whatever, there's bound to be some barriers there, and you'll know what they are. They could be very complex, I understand that. Well, I don't understand that, I accept that, because you will know. But even if young people choose to go into employment, they still have to be trained for that employment. And then there's another barrier if they don't like that particular employment and then you start again. So I would like to understand what the barriers are and a bit more explanation around that and expand that without actually having to know too much detail about the issues around the child, obviously. But certainly if they're going into employment, they'd be far better suited to having some form of training before going into employment. So it could be that there's a confidence barrier or they've not been able to pass the GCSEs, the schooling might not have been right. And what are we going to do about that? How are we going to help them get past that barrier? Because employment, you want to be employment to feel good about yourself. It's all about self-worth, isn't it? And you explained also, just to go back onto the dental thing, my other thing around that was I understand the issues around NHS dentistry. And you have explained very well that it's just the basic checks that we're kind of running behind on and not the treatment. But again, you know, if the treatment isn't there and they're wanting to go to work, it can affect their smile, it can affect their confidence, their oral health, they might be being bullied. You don't know what can come from that. So actually, I would like to see a bit more work on that, if I'm really honest.
Yeah.
You know, if they need a dental check, they need a dental check. And the other thing about, I'm going on now, am I all right to do that, Chair? So the whole saying, so if you could take that away and add that on. The thing that I picked up on page 22, the children in care with an up-to-date health check, and you said they exercise their right, 16, 17-year-olds were exercising their right to not want a health check. What is the health check? Can you explain to me, is it an in-person health check? What is the health check that they are refusing or exercising their right, and are they still minors under the age of 18?
So I think, are you happy to answer the what is a health check?
I can take it away. It's not my area that I work in. So if
I
you
think
can-
I know, yeah. I think it's a general health check. So it'll look at their weight, it'll look at their well-being, they'll talk to them about how they're feeling. They are minors, but they are legally allowed to make their own decisions. You know, I wouldn't have been able to force my 17-year-old to go for a health check. So they absolutely can choose. And I think one of the challenges we have for some young people with the health check is it's one of those very few things that feel very different if you're in care of the local authority. So none of your friends are having one. None of your friends' children have to go. So if you feel perfectly fit and well, and none of your friends are having to go and sit and have a chat with a medical professional about their, about what's going on with them. They absolutely can exercise their right not to do that. And for many of them, they feel really physically fit and well. You know, they're have got no health problems. They're sporty. They don't want to go and have that annual check. They don't feel they go to the GP if they feel that they need to, if they can get in. And then so yes, they can absolutely exercise their right to do that.
Yeah,
And
it's just a matter of care from
Yeah,
my point of view.
I completely
Requiring that, you know, to make sure that they get access to absolutely everything they need.
absolutely.
And of course, if they want to choose, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I
It's just
understand.
missing an underlying health issue if there's one there, but you know, children in care may well have been submitted to many health checks and might just not want to have them,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Look down.
understand. And then I will add those other bits into the other work we do, Councillor Clark. Thank you.
I've got a question on page
I think
25.
Andy just wanted to come back.
Yeah, it's just to say in relation to education training for care leaders around some of the barriers. We'll bring to our development days to that learning event, whatever we turn it into. We did a very targeted piece of work a year ago where we had contact, direct phone or face-to-face contact with every young person who wasn't in education, training, employment, and talk to them about what the barriers were. So we've done a piece of work around that. So we can bring that to you and show what the young people say. So we did a very specific piece about what barriers are for them.
I think we can rerun that as well.
Yeah.
So I think what would be really good for members to sort of see is the results, because we've got those results all broken down from the one that was done last year, and we'll rerun it with this current cohort to see how that sort of has changed, if it's changed or if it's still the same sort of areas really. So we can do that. That's all.
So rather than bring the old one, we wait for the new one, yeah.
Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah.
And
You to the committee, I'd like you to bottom it.
I noticed on page 25 there was an explanation about unaccompanied asylum seeking children who are more suited to living semi-independent living arrangements. So I just wanted to understand where the facts are behind that, the evidence behind that, because although a lot of the, as usual in our reports, a lot of the answers to page 5 were in page 6, and I thank you for that because there was a good breakdown there. Brilliant. But I couldn't, when I was reading through the report, I couldn't find where the evidence was to support that statement. So perhaps you can explain that.
Sure. Yeah, the vast majority of young people are coming to our care through the National Transfer Scheme, which is the government mandated scheme that moves young people from Kent into the care of Lincolnshire and across the whole of the country, are 16 and 17 years old. There is a very small proportion of young people that come into our care under the age of 16. We was a source of foster care placement for those younger children. When you've got 16, 17-year-olds coming into the care of the local authority, supported living is invariably the better option. Because there's a shorter time in care as well, ready for those young people to turn 18. 16, 17 years old, the bracket with the young people coming together. But what we also find is a lot of young people come into our care at 17 and a half. You know, so the ability to secure a foster placement for a 17-and-a-half-year-old is very difficult.
Yeah.
And foster carers don't often, be it through our own in-house options or externally commissioned options through the independent market, don't offer foster placement 16, 17-year-olds. So what we've done is we've got a number of services, Locate, Nine Homes, Maze, all organisations we work with that specialise working with young people from accompanied children coming into our care, through securing them into education, training, employment, getting them into local colleges, language barriers, cultural differences. Those organisations are set up really well to support that particular group at those ages as well.
Yeah, I've got there are some children who are coming to Lincolnshire. Well, being very well supported, so I know that. And also I noted that there was an increase in 16 and 17-year-olds going into foster care at that age group in the 0 to 4. It's quite an alarming rise, and that, you know, you must have a shortage in foster caring because foster carers are wanting to adopt and take longer care. So I appreciate the difficulties that you've got there. But thank you for the explanation.
Okay, so that's great. Any further questions?
Sorry to be a nuisance. We have offered apprenticeships from Lincolnshire County Council and been very successful. I know you've led that charge. Is it possible to find out how many apprentices we have at the moment? If that's a rolling cycle, if that was just a one-off.
In terms of young people in the care leavers apprenticeship scheme. Yeah, certainly within LCC, we've got hundreds of opportunities, hundreds of job profiles we identified that could be offered to young people as an apprenticeship through the care leavers apprenticeship scheme. Actually, I don't think the local authority posts many because young people don't want to do the apprenticeships in the local authority every time. But I know that the care leavers apprenticeship scheme works with employers outside of the local authority to secure some really creative and really successful apprenticeships through all sorts of providers. all sorts of organisations. But what we have been really quite successful within LCC recently as well is securing employment opportunities, not just apprenticeships as well. With Belford beating some of our big commission providers, big commission.
Because our big impact on the budget in the coming year is, it's probably not called the minimum wage, but that's how I'm going to refer to it. We're a good employer, aren't we? In that sense, and then we're a good trainer. And I just wonder if somehow that might be an incentive to some of these people reluctant to come and get there's an idea to get a good job, Colin, you know, and you'll be all right. And maybe just needs explaining to them that actually we're maybe that's something that Lincolnshire County Council could do, could target some of these and say, actually, you know, this is quite good. It ticks our box, but by heck, it ticks your box.
Yeah, we had a really good piece of work from Public Health recently. The 2 public health apprenticeships were set up, and they really did a really targeted piece of work with the leading care service to try and encourage wherever possible some of our care leaders to apply for the apprenticeships. We took it to the FAB Awards. We did a specific piece of information and a leaflet to give out to our young people. So the organisation is invariably thinks care leavers when they're looking at new apprenticeships and opportunities.
And I know you've done a great job. Yeah.
Sorry, Lisa wanted to come in. I don't know.
I was just going to basically say some of the reason for the lack of take-up is because of the educational attainment level you have to get to go onto an apprenticeship scheme. I think, and it's top of my head, but I've literally just looked at something this morning. There's 9 young people who are currently on the Care Leavers Apprenticeship Scheme within my service, which is obviously very low numbers. You're absolutely right. The Lincolnshire County Council is a brilliant host, and you're right. The wage is a good wage for a young person to go on to. That's not the issue. Opportunity and employers to do apprenticeships isn't the issue. The issue is about the educational attainment of care leavers. I have not got enough young people who are at that level to be able to do an apprenticeship.
I know from my early days in this role, I was having to go at absolutely everybody about apprenticeships until Andy made that point. What we're looking for is work experience somewhere. Casper Troy wanted to just come in.
Yeah, obviously HR comes under me as a portfolio holder, and I'd be more than willing to take that away really and work with HR and yourselves to see what we can do, see whether there are ways around that working and that apprenticeship that could work alongside getting the correct grades and that they might require to fully get on that apprenticeship. I think there's some work there that we can do.
Right. It's just that one of the challenges that apprenticeships used to be a really good vocational way into the world of work, you know, for hands-on people to just go out to get their qualifications and secure a career through that. What happened was the government introduced the apprenticeship standards, which raised, and over a number of I think it's about 4 years, continually raised the bar of the minimum educational requirements for undertaking apprenticeships. So what actually happened was it pushed a lot of people who you know, education and academia is not their area of expertise, not their area of expertise, actually get into the world of work. And it pushed a lot of people out of that, not just our care leavers, but a lot of other people out of the apprenticeship space. It's been a bit of a shame.
Colin, were you there?
I think that it's incumbent on LCC to do all it can to actually, you know, deal with actions and not just words. So I think exactly what Richard just said. There are access schemes that enable people, young people, to engage with apprenticeships and follow an access scheme to get their qualifications in parallel. Yeah, absolutely. So I it's not all a doom and gloom. I just think that if you've got a targeted group and you've got an offer, then we should at least be making that offer to that targeted group and enabling them as best we can, as LCC and associates. That's all. And I know that you are, but I want that recorded that we could prioritise that with this target.
Yeah, and just to add, obviously, we're working really hard to aim to ensure our children do get the right academic attainment to enable employment opportunities. And I think for those 16 to 18-year-olds, whilst the drive is still for them to try and achieve their GCSE outcomes to enable them to take on apprenticeships, for some of our young people who are struggling with the academic side, they have gone into employment, but we continue to have the personal education plan meetings every term. And we look at then trying to get them to explore training opportunities within within the employment that they're doing. So sometimes once they've got their confidence, they're holding down a job, they're then more willing to talk to the employer about apprenticeship opportunities now that they're feeling more secure in what they're doing. So that is constantly revisited. Just because they're in employment doesn't mean that's okay. We don't worry about the education anymore. We're still looking for those training opportunities.
Just don't need an answer for this, Andy. It's just we refer a lot to being in custody as not appropriate accommodation. I'd like to see some figures and trends around in custody for children if possible. I don't need it today, but I think if where we talk about it, we should be able to understand what that figure is. And I think it's important we also see a trend. Not, I think when I last asked, I think the figure was so low it was hardly worth talking about. But I think it's something we ought to understand and ought to see.
That's to development workshop to do that.
Yeah, we could do that. Just the other thing to say is if a child comes into custody, very often they come into care because they've come into custody. So the trend, it's understanding the point of entry to care in relation to the custodial time, because, you know, obviously when they go into custody to come into our care, that is that will affect the trend. So yeah, they may not be known to us and gone into custody.
I don't totally that. Yeah. And then the one other thing, and again, just so as we get an understanding, my understanding is the National Transfer Scheme, we've got a maximum of 144 that could come in on that scheme. I did ask the question of this the other day and I did get the answer and I forgot how many it is. But again, I think it's important for us to understand where we are against that 144, where it comes up in some reports. So again, don't need that figure at the moment.
Oh,
have you got it?
We've got 10 custody and it's 101 children currently in care on the national.
Okay, that's great, thank you. So I propose that the panel has very thoroughly reviewed the report and is satisfied with the performance of the measures relevant to children in care in Q2 of 2023-24. I think some good suggestions and some good working together bits come out of this. I'm really quite proud of where we've got today. So could I ask you to raise your hands if you're in agreement? Okay, that's great. That's agreed. So thank you very much for your contributions. Agenda item 6, Children in Care Joint Annual Health Reports. This item on page 33 to 70 of the agenda pack sets out the annual health report for 1st of April 2022 to the 31st of March 2023 and contains information relevant to the delivery of service and the progress achieved for the health and well-being of children in care. The report will be presented by Andy Morris, Head of Service, Leaving Care Ceremony, Independent Living and Unaccompanied Children, and Rebecca Pinder, Head of Safeguarding Children NHS Lincolnshire ICB. The panel is invited to review and endorse the Children in Care Joint Annual Health Report 2022-23, attached at Appendix A. Over to you, Andy and Rebecca, please.
The report is contained within the pack. A very simple overview of that report, just to identify some of the recommendations from the 23-24 report, is to just have a look at the local authority integrated care boards working with community health service to improve the number of initial health assessments. We've talked about reviewed health assessments, but it's looking at the actual initial health assessment by young people where we've seen a continual improvement in the initial health assessment, which I'm really pleased to say. And we're also looking at how the community health services to maintain the current GP workforce as well, to continue that trend of improvement in initial health assessments. And that will also then impact on the positive and improvement positive numbers around review health assessments. We share this report widely. We show the independent reviewing officers, who are people who chair the child in care review meetings that health invariably attend. Your supported living providers might attend that, your living care worker, your children in care social worker. So that has been shared widely with the IROs, the independent reviewing team, to raise that profile and scrutiny and challenge to make sure that health is held accountable for the improvement for children in care reviews, and make sure that the IROs fully understand the broader landscape of health. Review the management support provided to children with SDQs, which are the strength and difficulties questionnaires, which is that piece of work that's done with young people around emotional well-being. I would defer to my health colleagues about the SDQs. I'm afraid that is not my area of expertise. But there's also the continued utilisation of value in care toolkit, which I think we've socialised with a number of organisations now, and we're using the value in care toolkit widely within children's services to help us map and understand the needs of our young people and making sure that the value in care toolkit helps us understand the health and emotional well-being needs of all of our young people. Again, we work with your Health Alliance Group to continue to support the access to dentistry to our children in care. We've touched on a number of times this morning, so there's a little bit of a crossover with the children's care performance reporting, and also to work to ensure transition to adulthood and transitional safeguard for children in care and care leavers in group. There's a piece of work ongoing. Actually, this afternoon, we're looking at all of the transitions of our young people to adult mental health services and wellbeing services. And then there's a piece of work ongoing with the Adult Safeguarding Board and Lynn McDonald, who's the head of service for adult safeguarding, to look at how we support the transition of young people as they turn 18 to those particular more kind of targeted specialist services now within the adults arena. So the reports contained within the documents, and I will be happy to take any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions? Yes.
Sorry.
No, no problem.
Yeah, on page 46 and 47, you've got a ethnicity breakdown. It doesn't suggest or advise male or female. We don't make any assumptions. I don't know if that's important. It's important to me. And also, the other thing, on page 48, I know that officers will understand what an S31 is, but I don't. Could I please ask Chair your indulgence about working with acronyms and abbreviations and things like that? It's not healthy for members. We don't know what that is, unless we've been doing it a long time and I haven't. So that would be useful if you could just put a little thing. I know it's extra work on the report, and the last thing you want is that. But a little box on the bottom to say what these are, so that I don't have to ask you a question. I think, oh yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah, it's an oversight. You're absolutely right.
Okay, so there is a section 31 care order. That's a full care order. So sorry about that. It's a really good point, isn't it? We understand that language, we use it every day. So yeah, so that's the status of the young person in care. There's other ways of coming into care that we can go into. We'll probably do a little bit of support with myself and Paul meeting in a couple of weeks anyway. So we can make sure we discuss that with you. And yeah, the breakdown in terms of male and female, the split. And we're looking at next year, the report's going to be written by myself and Paul, Rebecca and Nicola, and we're going to look at all the details that you've raised today. And if we can absolutely provide the split male and female. So if we can find it and feed that back, we can make sure that's reported back to you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That should be easily done.
Okay, do we have any further questions? Just one comment from me, really. Page 42 of Act 2.2 corporate parent. I thought that first paragraph was a good explanation of corporate parenting responsibilities that I've seen. I thought it was first class. So thank you very much, Andy. Okay, that's right. So I propose that the panel has reviewed the report and endorsed the Children Care Joint Annual Health Report for 2022-23. Attached Appendix A. Can I ask you to raise your hands if you're in agreement? That is great. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Andy. Thank you, Rebecca. That was quite easy for you. Yeah. You come again. Thank you. So we now move on to agenda item 7, Lincolnshire Leaving Care Service 6 monthly update report. This item on page 71 to 84 of the agenda pack provides the panel with a 6 monthly update report demonstrating the work undertaken within Lincolnshire Leaving Care Service from April 2023 to October 2023. The report will be presented by Lisa Adams, Programme Manager, Barnardo's, Kerry Mitchell, Assistant Director, Barnardo's Lincolnshire, and Andrew Morris, because he hasn't had enough to do today, Head of Service, Leaving Care, Semi-Independent Living and Unaccompanied Children. And the panel is invited to review and endorse the Leaving Care Service 6 month update report. Lisa Kerry, and thank you, you're away.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowe. You'll have to let me indulge me a bit because I know the report should just be April to October, but members know that I always get excited about what's happening now, what happened over Christmas. So I will try and just give you a bit of a sort of an up-to-date review of leaving care. We've obviously had quite a big discussion about employment, education and training, but I will still cover a little bit of that in my report. So as you're aware, the Leaving Care Service is a commissioned service delivered by Barnardo's on behalf of the local authority. We absolutely work with Lincolnshire young people and are very proud to do that. We are under contract until March next year, and obviously contract negotiations will start later on this year. Throughout the report, I'm going to cover areas such as accommodation, the current cohort that we're working with, some things around participation and fundraising, some of the specialist workers, and then to finish off on some of the transformation work that we're doing in partnership with the local authority. Accommodation-wise, members who've been on panel for a while obviously know that the offer that Lincolnshire make to care experience young people is quite vast. There are a number of different housing options that are available, and the Leaving Care Service has good ties, I would say, with other providers such as NACRO to be able to offer a range of housing for its care leavers. Figures around this young people being in suitable accommodation have generally been very high and continue to be so. We have some, I would say, odd young people who make some decisions themselves about the offers that they've been made and that particular offer not suiting them. But we absolutely track that cohort of young people, and those young people are discussed at every commissioning meeting and data is provided. So like I said, we ourselves run a supported lodging scheme on behalf of the local authority. The report says that there are 12 providers at the moment, and that's actually just dropped down to 11 as of yesterday. And we offer accommodation options in supported living from 16 to 21-year-olds. A new development for members to be aware of is the introduction of the registered manager now for any sort of supported lodging scheme and any supported living scheme, and that covers the 16 and 17-year-olds basically. So I have gone through the process of becoming a registered manager. So our supported living scheme is regulated as we speak and is open to inspection from April onwards, and that's via Ofsted. Andy is also a registered manager and oversees provisions such as Denton and Rouston, who also offer supported living options for 16 and 17-year-olds. So that's been quite a big piece of work, I would say, to be able to go through Ofsted registration process, but that's now been done and completed. I'm just awaiting my fit person interview from Ofsted, so I'm hoping I'll fly through that. She says. Like I said, we've obviously talked about our employment and training opportunities. We have a small team, but what I would say is that we also have sort of 30 leaving care workers who absolutely take employment and training and opportunities as absolutely paramount when they're seeing young people. So although it's a small specialist team, young people have access to leaving care workers, and all of our care experience young people have a named worker. And we also work with the 20 to 25-year-olds as well. So again, they're able to come back to service. They've got an open offer, as it were, to come and seek advice, guidance and support. And again, we provide data which looks at those 21 to 25-year-olds and what sort of support and advice and guidance they're looking for, some of which is around employment and training. And again, that data is available, and I'm more than happy in any future report to be able to show members that data if they're interested in that 21 to 25 cohort of young people. Andy made reference to our unaccompanied asylum seeker sort of offer, and I suppose the growth in that sort of particular group of young people. It's obviously Cindy is one of our team managers and sees just how many unaccompanied asylum seekers are actually entering our service as we speak. Like you said, 101 at present, and we do have, obviously, Lincolnshire has capacity for 144. And I guess what I would say about that is that every one of those young people will come through to the care leaver service, so will benefit from a service up to 25 years of age. The local authority are very clear about that, and we've done some sort of joint meetings about forecasting and trying to make sure that we've absolutely got services in place for that group of young people. It is quite, what I would say, I suppose, is it is quite complex working with unaccompanied asylum seekers. There's all sorts of immigration law and legislation that we need to be mindful of. And whilst, I suppose, the change in this particular period maybe is that whilst our team in Peterborough were, I would say, specialists within that area, we've actually had to sort of spread that specialism across the service because of the increase in numbers, really. So certainly Cindy, who manages one of the teams in Lincoln, will have seen an awful lot more of unaccompanied asylum seekers that we now look after. And although they are based in Peterborough, we've had to sort of share the spread of the work, really. So that's been something over that period we've done, and obviously provided some additional training around that. Our participation offer, I would say, is strong. It's certainly got stronger over this period. We have a specialist participation worker, and we've tried to offer some different sorts of opportunities really for care experience young people to take part in. So whether that's been the Fab Awards, we've done some cookery lessons that we targeted for our unaccompanied asylum seekers down in Peterborough. I had the opportunity of going to just a fabulous event at the Bank of England. The Bank of England laid on for Bernardo's, but I was able to go with some staff and a group of our young people, not only unaccompanied asylum seekers, to sort of take place in sort of a round table exercise where we were able to share, I guess, some of the issues around cost of living and in this country with the governor, and also some heads of some of the banking establishments. And the opportunity for our young people was just wonderful. Bernardo's paid for the 6 young people to go and see a show the night before. They paid all their transport costs. They were treated like royalty at the Bank of England. It was wonderful. It was really good. I very rarely go and do things like that. I very rarely go and do the garden parties and the things that some of our teams have had the opportunity of doing. And it's the first one I've done in 6 years, but it was just a lovely event where Lincolnshire care leavers made me very proud. And it was just wonderful to do. And I've gone back to service and I've continued to give this quote, but it's just really, it's nice to hear that I was having lunch with one of our care leavers who was an unaccompanied asylum seeker who was 23 and who Lincolnshire had known since he was 17. And trying to sort out his immigration status had been difficult, but he had then got his decision and his right to remain in the UK. And I was just chatting, and I wasn't seeking a compliment, but I was chatting over lunch, and he said to me, he said, I work with Mandy now. He said, do you know Mandy? And I said, Mandy's one of our workers. And I said, I do. He said, oh, but do you know Eleanor? And I said, I do know Eleanor. And Eleanor used to be our UASC lead. She's now a team manager. And he said, she just changed my life. And he said, I have nobody here. And he said, she was just at the end of the phone and she was just there for me and she's just been great. And he said, and when I got my decision through that I could remain in this country, he said, I rang Eleanor. He said, she was the first person that I rang because I have no family here. And I just think it's really important when we're in the positions that we're in and when we're sort of maybe not quite as close to the young people, just to hear that and hear the impact of that is really important. So I always, whenever I get a chance to tell that story, I tell it because I guess it's just something that I heard firsthand and was just good to know. So the impact that we have on some of our young people and for Lincolnshire people is just brilliant. And it's just a great service to look after, really. The other sorts of participation events that we've offered is that we do in Bernardo's, we have something called the Triangles Project, which matches up young people with some members of staff. So basically it looks like a triangle with a young person at one end and 2 members of staff, and they work on a project. And the young people from Lincolnshire decided that they were going to work on a project all around LBGTQ in service. And they had the opportunity to develop an idea, and then they presented that to some managers within Barnardo's, but also to Anna as part of that call and came on that call. And what that's sort of done is helped us develop, I suppose, our core offer and extend our core offer, and make some changes to the core offer. So it's just been really helpful to sort of see that some ideas that young people had, Lincolnshire young people had, have like made some real strategic differences really. So that's another bit of work that's been going on. Because we're a commission service, we're obviously able to access as well, I guess, some different things than the local authority can access. So we've had all sorts of donations. We still have a very strong partnership with IKEA, with Vodafone. We've been able to get mobile phones into the service. Christmas donations, like I said, excuse me saying this, but we managed to get a partnership with a co-op. Every young person in our service benefited from Christmas presents. We made sure that they were wrapped, that it wasn't just around here's a voucher, it was around a present and a voucher from Barnardo's. And I guess just a special shout out to one of our team, who is now our service manager, but who was a team manager in Louth, for some of the community donations that we've been able to get from the Louth area. That continues nearly weekend after weekend. Becky was at the Eastgate Church last weekend for us and walked away again with another £380 donation and the promise of money from a quiz that they're doing later this month with their chosen charity of the year. So all of those funds don't go into Barnardo's, they go into Lincolnshire Leaving Care, because I make sure that that happens. Barnardo's been a national charity. Like I said, he's obviously is a big business, but I absolutely make sure that those donations are local donations and come to Lincolnshire and they don't get sucked into any sort of central pot within Barnardo's. So that's been just a real positive sort of thing. We've always continued to have a very strong connection with the Orthodox Church here in Lincoln, because Eleni, who goes there all the time, was a Barnardo's girl back in when she was a young teenager, and she's now in her 80s and continues to have that affiliation with Barnardo's. That means that we in Lincoln absolutely benefit from that. So again, there were donations of both cash but also Christmas presents that came into the office at Christmas from there. A little bit just about our specialist workers and how we've added some additions, I guess. Lincolnshire have been very lucky in being able to get some funding from the Staying Close, Staying Connected initiative, which sees us trying to build on accommodation options in Lincolnshire for our young people, and develop some of that what I call hand-holding things that help young people absolutely develop in the community and where they are living. Within that, we've been able to appoint a team manager around that initiative, and also two additional workers that's out for advert at the moment. So that's a fairly new initiative for Lincolnshire, but it's something that we're very much partnering with and enjoying. Really, it's a really good process. We have our mental health specialist workers. Again, there's been a bit of a gap through the previous worker, but with health we've now appointed, and there are two new workers who are working solely in relation to leaving care young people, and with NACRA with a housing option. So again, a lot of our young people are in that provision. So that again has been another sort of benefit really. And I guess the final bit I want to just talk about is about the Transformation Board and some of the work that we've been doing post-inspection really. As members are aware, there was an Ofsted inspection that was conducted in April last year. And within that, there's been some dedicated work around the leaving care offer. We've been able to now establish and get rolling the Transformation Board that's got some, that has workers, that has team managers, that has our assistant director and myself on different sort of working groups, that's absolutely working on opportunities and options to develop the offer better for care leavers within Lincolnshire. What we're also doing is making sure that young people are involved in that, and so There are some bits of work that we're then taking to a group of young people and saying, what do you think about that? What would you like to see? So we're trying to do that sort of work with young people so that they influence some of the policies and procedures that we'll be working on, really. So a busy 6-month period, a very good partnership arrangement with the local authority, and also with the other partners that work with the local authority for our care experience young people. So yeah, I'm open to any questions.
Yes, Councillor.
Well, I would like to check you full report, but one minute at least today. I didn't see anything about COP, everything of Tesco. You mentioned Tesco. Tesco do support Bernardo, but you didn't mention Tesco, you mentioned COP. And I Homeland Food Bank and that, but I think well done.
Thank you.
That's the word I can say.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
The partnership with Tesco's was in that period absolutely going full out. What I would say is that, and it was the big Tesco's, Extra in Lincoln that we were working with. And they were literally, we were able to nearly run a food bank. I can't tell you. I mean, I know that Andy, you've been at the office when stuff's arrived. And it's absolutely all gone out to, we made sure it's gone out to all of the offices as well. Tesco's are now working with the Women's Refuge, I understand, in Lincoln. So some of that stuff in a way that we got, but that's fine. I'm saying we don't mind, but we still obviously try and create those sorts of partnerships so that our young people still benefit. So yeah, during that period, absolutely.
You had in Laos, they have Tesco and Maplesoft, and they're quite well supported. You should contact them.
Yes.
So one of them, you put them bullshit in.
Yes, I do.
Because they have one in Maplesoft. You should contact Tesco and Maplesoft. They're well supported.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We did benefit from the token box in Horncastle, and we received a £500 donation.
Yeah. When they're quite really good, they can opt to, but not to 1,000, can be 1,500 pounds, one of them bullshit.
Yeah.
They're quite really good in Maplesoft.
No, thank you.
Contact them for Laos. Because people do from Laos come to Maplesoft, Tesco.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chairman. Lisa, what a great report. It's so encouraging. It couldn't be a better report. I'd like to focus on your odd people, if I may, because odd people always fascinate me. The odd people that choose not to have the accommodation that they're offered. Are the reasons because they want to remain with friends and their own nationalities? And I'm partly referring to the migrants that come across. And it's understandable that they want to be in centres where some of their own nationalities are available. I quite understand the reasons for that. What I'd like to know is what Bernardo's and the council do to monitor the accommodations that they choose to go into themselves, and how both organisations then support the odd people, if I may.
That's fine. We are talking very small numbers, so it's usually between, because it obviously changes every month. We provide the data to the local authority every quarter, and we literally can provide names and the situation that they are in. And we are still working with those young people. So you're absolutely right. Some of those young people are staying with friends. They are choosing to stay with friends and family. Some young people want to stay with family members, but in a way aren't staying in their house. I've got a very odd situation where, like you said, somebody is staying. I've had young people stay on a caravan on somebody's, literally on a family member's drive, because that's where they've wanted to be, but couldn't be in the house. Like you said, I have some people with friends and family. On that list as well would also be young people who are missing from service, but again, I think there are 2 young people, and they have been unaccompanied asylum seekers who have been allocated to Lincolnshire and in a way never stayed in Lincolnshire. I think I have 2 young people like that. But they would still remain open to service. They'd still be having regular visits. So we would still go and see them where they are, or we would try and go and see them where they are staying if they allow us to do that. And again, I have some very particular young cases where young people won't say where they are staying. So they'll stay in contact with us. They'll be in telephone contact. They'll even agree to meet us, but they won't take us to the house where they are staying. But like I said, we're talking very, very small numbers. If you're looking at that, I've got about 470 young people open to service, and we're talking maybe about 6 of those who are in unsuitable accommodation. It's very small.
So do we as a council focus on those 6 that to find out how the well-being is, and to ensure that we are doing everything that we can to support them?
Yeah, as I said at the JET meetings, which is the contract meetings, myself and Paul now, but we sit with Lisa and Kerry, and we'll go through what we have a look at. Lisa and Kerry report all the names of the young people, so I could say that one, but I could say names and circumstances and situations that we know about every single young person, and through the work we do with Lisa, we make sure that each of those young people have been offered invariably supported accommodation through our NACRO offer, maybe supported lodgings. Some young people have been offered direct offers from the District Council of Housing, and young people have declined to say, I don't want it. I don't want it. You know, some of these young people are 18, 19, 20 years old, and that's their right to make that choice. I would consider it a poor choice, but for them, that's the choice they've made. But as Lisa says, they maintain their visits, they maintain their pathway plan, stay in touch with those young people. And if those young people ever came back and said, actually, I'd like some accommodation, it would be sourced and would be found. We have options and opportunities to be able to find those care leavers, those options if they wish to take it. We've got one young person who living down south, quite way down south, living with his brother. His brother was an unaccompanied young person. He's an unaccompanied young person, and he is choosing to live with his brother on his brother's sofa down where his brother is, because his brother's a care leaver. I think it's Dorset or Devon way, so it's a long way away. We're saying you're living on your brother's sofa, but that's where I want to be with my brother. He stays in touch with us. He works with us. We have all of our contact to stay with him, but that's where he's choosing to live. But because it's not his own accommodation, by the categories created by the government, we deem that to be unsuitable accommodation. That's where he wants to be. He's safe and well. We know where he is, and he stays in touch with us.
Thank you. It's an absolutely brilliant report. It's a pleasure to read, and it sets all sorts of questions running in my head.
That's fine.
Which is not about the question. Can you explain why such large numbers of 16 to 24-year-olds are going to Peterborough?
Yeah.
And can you explain why Lincoln, out of all of the Lincolnshire areas, has equivalent high numbers? So those are, and then the other question is, can you explain, because I don't get it, the statistics on missing children, because it seems like you have quite large number of missing, but there's 97% return and they're not missing. So I didn't understand that bit either.
So I'm happy to set the issue about why Peterborough. Years ago, before I even came here, and when there was, I guess, not as many services within Lincolnshire for unaccompanied asylum seekers, such as the mosque and things like that, a service was commissioned down in Peterborough that provided housing, and that was done through contracting arrangements. The local authority have since issued that contract again. So I want to say about a couple of years ago now, Andy. So it went out to tender again to try and look at and encourage other local, other providers to come forward. And that wasn't the case, and we were still, in a way, that contract was still awarded because it was a good contract and a good standard of care down to the company down in Peterborough, which is Low Kent. And then, of course, what happens is when you then get a group and a company like that, and young people then, a bit like Andy said before, they want to then stay with the group that they have then met there. And until recently, we had a good relationship, and Peterborough Council were then generally housing those young people once they got over 18, because the contract is for 16 to 18-year-olds. That has changed more recently and has been a bit more problematic, and the local authority have been working with us to try and look at some solutions really around that. Because it is a bit problematic, but in that they're Lincolnshire children placed in Peterborough, so there's that over the county. So for health, Lincolnshire Health have still got responsibility for them when they are down in Peterborough. But we have had some solutions around that. For example, we have a bus that goes down to Peterborough that'll do some of the bloodborne testing and things like that that's needed. Some training that's offered to the young people, some one-to-one things around sexually transmitted diseases and things like that is done down in Peterborough. Some of the nurses go down there to deliver that. So we have got some solutions, but it would be easier if that provision was in Lincolnshire. Like I said, it is just over the border, but it would be easier, but it isn't. So I suppose that's why that. And I suppose why Lincoln, as to why that again is another area where there's quite a lot of, and I guess it's just around what's available in Lincoln really, and that young people tend to head back towards the city because they feel there's more resources sort of available for them. And obviously, so the offer that we then have with things like housing providers in Lincoln is stronger in a way because it's what we use all the time. But that explains, I hope, a bit about the numbers.
No, it's lovely, and I think you've explained technical reasons. I used to live and work in Peterborough, and I imagine that there's a very different ethnic and cultural environment in Peterborough to the one in Lincoln. Is that reflected in the ethnicity of the care leavers who choose to go and live in Peterborough?
All of my care leavers in Peterborough are unaccompanied asylum seeking. Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
And is there anything we can do about that by making the offer more attractive here, or is that simply
we do enough? Yeah,
we can't win, if you like it. That's the wrong word.
Yeah, we're trying to. It's interesting. It's something we've talked about very recently because when we always bring a group, I know that those of you who've been to the Fab Awards will know that we bring a bus from Peterborough. It's always the most frightening bit of my day about who's got on this blooming bus and have they got on the bus on time. But we always bring our unaccompanied asylum seekers, or we put a big group of them up to the Fab Awards. And what we know is that sometimes that's been the first time that our young people have been to Lincoln. And so we're trying to rectify some of that. We're trying to do some developments which try and show the young people in Peterborough that actually they are Lincolnshire, they are looked after by Lincolnshire, and we're trying to encourage them more to consider maybe some housing options in Lincolnshire, because that, like I said, would remedy all sorts of problems, but issues. It would remedy some of that. So we've certainly tried some of that more recently, aren't we? We're sort of the transformation board's helping us look at some of that sort of stuff. So we are doing some bus trips up, some days out. The participation workers doing some dedicated time to try and, I'm saying in a way, try and encourage that group into Lincolnshire. But it's a big group. Nearly a quarter of my young people now are unaccompanied asylum seekers, and like it'll only get bigger. So ideally, I'd love them in Lincolnshire, but contractually, they're in Peterborough at the moment. And until we can encourage another provider, I suppose, to develop that sort of housing option that we're looking for, we have to work with what we've got at the moment.
Just as well, yeah, just on the back of what Lisa said, we do have some providers as well. We found in Nottingham, work with a couple of providers in Nottingham, which is a little bit closer to our borders as well. Again, but Nottingham provides that kind of urban environment, that greater mix of ethnicities, where those young people just feel more safe and settled and able to live. But we had some really big successes as well, and work with our colleagues in NAPRO, to move groups of young people together. When you've got a group of people say, "Oh, I want to live," four young men living together, similar ethnicity and background. And we said, well, what we've done is we've moved 4 young people together into a property that they're sharing with NAPRO, that's rented through NAPRO. So we're moving young people in creative and imaginative ways so they can stay connected to the network they feel really comfortable with as well. Also through the Staying Close and Connected fund that Lisa referred to earlier, we've got an innovations worker through NAPRA who's going to be developing some of those mechanisms so we can start working with young people a bit earlier to say, do you want to come back to Lincolnshire? Is Lincolnshire could be the option you'd like? Because they still receive our service, but it's where they just choose to live. So we're just coming up with all sorts of ideas and options now. And it's just like, just socialising with young people, the idea that although you live in Peterborough and your social worker comes to visit you in Peterborough, you looked after by Lincolnshire. Sometimes they're not interested in that notion. They're just receiving their support, the care, they're at college, they're off doing what they want to do. And it doesn't occur to them in the first instance that actually you looked after by Lincolnshire because they just live in Peterborough. They're told where they understand, but it's not the forefront of their mind. They just want to create their lives for themselves.
You.
I've asked the second question.
The missing.
Yeah, about the missing, but I also got a little subsidiary. You indicated that you were appointing a new post for skills with your care leavers, and you indicated that you were advertising. Are they going to be working in partnership, or is it the same post?
No, absolutely different posts, but
Different post, but in
absolutely,
partnership.
those links are
Sorry, so
absolutely,
that just occurred to me that I'd meant to ask that
those
question, but
links are
missing.
absolutely there.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, we're very much working partnership with Virtual School, with the local authority. Those links are absolutely there and very strong. So yeah.
Yeah, good.
And as far as the missing numbers are concerned, obviously this data has been pulled off a database. And so what I would say is that unknown address, confidential address, which is showing 25, that doesn't mean that they're not missing young people. Like I said, we are in contact with them, with the majority of them. Like I said, I think there are 2 young people at the moment that we do not know their whereabouts. That still doesn't mean that we don't do anything though. If we have a young person who has, like I said, in a way, those 2 have never been really looked after by Lincolnshire, although they are technically down as Lincolnshire people, we still absolutely report them as missing to the police and try and sort of do that follow-up work with the police, just to see if we can find out where they are, really. But like I said, unfortunately, young people change names. It's near on impossible, but it doesn't mean that what we don't do is close them to service. We recognise that they are still Lincolnshire people and we try hard to establish where they are. So, like I said, figures for accommodation are very good. There is what we see is that there is churn, and like I said, those individual cases are discussed quarterly. So 25 young people are showing on this list, but 23 we are in contact with and know where they are.
Nicola.
Yeah, just to pick up on Councillor Matthews there, and thank you for the report, fabulous, and it's so positive. I'm so pleased for you. I just wanted to pick up on 2 things about the accommodation. I think it's worth saying that not just for your group, that accommodation can be problematic because you haven't got access to it in Lincoln. We've got the property guy sitting in the corner. Sorry. But also for other groups, other cohorts, girls that Women Rising, we've got the same problem of safety, making sure that people are secure, access to services, one-stop shop really. And I think that's possibly where, in my mind, I would like to see service aspire to, so that it's easier for everybody. People can go and choose to live where they want to, but it might be worth looking at what Peterborough offers, so that you're saying that Peterborough, that it's a really good offer. It'd be really nice to know what that offer is in Peterborough, so that we can look at that in Lincoln and say, well, actually, should we be aspiring to that here in Lincolnshire? Should we now be working towards that? Because we've got various cohorts that are going to need various types of accommodation, and we're looking at health and expanding.
Yeah. Can I just clarify that, Councillor Clark? So we commission what's in Peterborough.
Yeah.
So we know exactly what's there.
Yeah.
We want it in Lincoln, but we need a provider who wants
Yeah.
to deliver it. So just so you know, it's not Peterborough Council that are
Yeah.
delivering it, just so that's.
Yeah. I thought it would be useful for me personally,
Yeah.
about other members, but to see exactly what it is. Maybe you can do a presentation on what Peterborough offer. You know, when you say it's great, and absolutely agree with that, like to see it, because if we want to try and look at a plan for that, and I'm sure that, you know, with all the changes in and things that are happening on the horizon, it may well come under the new mayor's role. I don't know, but these things now need to be put out there, because if we want it, we need to start saying this is what we need. And this is what we need to work to, and this is what we need to change for. So for me, that's essential. And then the other thing that I read, sorry, I didn't mean to get so het up about that, but you know, I chose that. I think Lincolnshire needs to move forward and grab what it needs and ask for it. So we need a strong voice to say this. So to look at that, what that offer is, be great for me. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, oh, I've lost my thing now, but it's trauma training. A lot of our services now are looking at trauma training. And I just wondered if you just expand on that.
Of course I will.
Please, yeah.
So as far as the so the first bit's fairly easy for me, in that I'm sure that the corporate parenting manager, alongside maybe the locate who are the providers, we're more than happy to come and sort of put a presentation together. So I suppose that's the first bit. Yeah, the trauma stuff. We do loads of trauma stuff in Bernardo, and because I suppose we just recognise that yeah, the group that we work with, just because of their status after and care experience, there is like to be some degree of trauma, no matter how they came into care, really. And so I guess we have delivered and are delivering what they call the RAP programme, which is all about your own sort of self-resilience, really. And what we've tried to do is like a top-down approach, but we've got to the kids now, so I'll tell you a bit about that. But myself and Andy and Cindy did the RAP training, so it's where we tried to look at, like I said, how we can look after ourselves so that we can present our best self, I guess. So whether that's then being at work, being at home. And that programme has now been delivered across down but into Bernardo's. All of the leaving care workers have benefited from that. And we start to deliver that to the kids now. So that's working really well. That's interesting that we've targeted a group of young people that we've done that course with. We're learning from that and we're hoping to roll that out even more. So that's one of the things. All of the teams have done trauma training. So they've had some Beacon House sort of trauma training that we've done again across all of our teams. And that helps us think about how we're working with care experienced young people. And some useful ways of doing that, I guess, and delivering that. Bernardo, we try and be a very trauma-informed organisation, but I guess a lot of organisations aspire to that, and actually talking about and delivering it are two different things. But it is something that we are aware of and we try, wherever possible, to sort of do that. So whether even if that's just around how we interview staff and what sort of atmosphere we try and create around that. You know, we try and do that from a very trauma-informed sort of perspective, really. So yeah, it's something that we continue to work on, that we absolutely are rolling out with our young people now, and that we are seeing the benefits from. And I guess, like I said, it's about us investing time and investing staff time in that, but it's something that we're absolutely up for and absolutely something that the local authority is supporting us with. So we've never been told, no, we can't do that. No. We've never, we're absolutely encouraged to sort of deliver and train staff using that model.
Yeah, just sweeping through the service.
Absolutely.
It's actually sweeping through all
and bringing partners on board with us. Yeah. With that. So like I said, Andy's benefited from coming and doing that sort of RAP training with us. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
No, good.
Oh, about equal report. We talk about why the short Peterborough. I'm talking from my experience. Yes. I live here over 40 years. It'd be nice to live in Lincoln, but if these people are come far away from where they come from, they want to be in their group. How safe is, how many ratio, how people targeting, very important. Because I live in the middle of nowhere in Yorkshire, 40 odd years ago, you cannot get access any food you like to eat. That important, like you say, one of them go down to live with his brother. I would like to live where my family or my friends are. Loads of them in London.
Yes.
But what offer? Even Lincoln have a good offer, but they were looking like Peterborough near Central. You can get onto anywhere to Cambridge, London quicker. Lincoln, if they look at picture, Lincoln, wonderful countryside. What the countryside got offer for these young people. They live in the pool. You see, I know how they feel.
Yes.
Exactly. Then you have comfort, but because I'm married, so I have support
Yes.
from my partner. But these people have support from you lot,
Yeah, they do.
but they're looking for the same kind of people. From look last said, in Lincoln themselves, not many to opt that for these kind of people. You might build a nice house, build accommodation, but they don't have, like what you could get in together. It's some in Doncaster, some in Scunthorpe. They have that kind of group, but Lincoln is still like the way the people looking like, oh, they don't like us. You have to try to make down that. They will come. But you think about it, when you see in the local news, you see in the news, always demonstration against these asylum, these people. In their head, they run away from where they're here. And they're going to come here and they're going to target the safety and feel home comfort, and that's important. You can have a nice thing and they still not come. You see, it's a different category. I know it costs and that. That's why, like, if you go live somewhere out, you want to be near all English people, you want to have bacon and egg, bean or pork, you know what I mean? That's exactly where you go. That's how it is. I thank you very much.
Yeah, I think the head of service was absolutely right when he said, in a way, sometimes it doesn't matter to them what happened, that they are Lincolnshire young people. And actually, if they had been first placed in Lincolnshire and there was that sort of infrastructure, other young people around them, I think they would settle. I think it just happens to be that a lot of our Lincolnshire people are placed in Peterborough and they then very quickly form that group. You're right, and then they don't want to move from that group. And you're absolutely right. London is seen as the Mecca, and the other thing that I would say is that so is England, so is the United Kingdom. In that, if you look at the journey that a number of our young people have made, they specifically pass through a lot of countries before they claim asylum in this country. Myself and Andy would see it in the audits that we read sometimes, where you will see, 7 countries may have been passed through, some of which the young person doesn't even know the name of, but their ultimate end is to get to England. And then on the National Transfer Scheme, that particular cohort would happen to come under the care of Lincolnshire. And you're right then, with that group then that they then join in Peterborough, they very quickly, I'm saying, assimilate into that group and absolutely want to grab the opportunities as far as education, specifically education really, health to an extent, but specifically education. If I look at the cohort of young people I work with and I look at the 470, as far as presenting and how difficult they are to manage, the unaccompanied asylum seeking young people are not. They don't bring me the most challenges. They have an awful lot of trauma that they have dealt with. We have all that immigration stuff that we have to deal with. But as far as them presenting and I'm saying not being a bother, that group to me is an easier group to manage than some of the young people that we see who've had really difficult trauma and are a lot, like you said, more difficult to manage in sustaining education, sustaining employment, and sustaining accommodation,
But the language, that's important, because if you speak a little bit of English and you try, but these days, better in them days, you go to the shop, you want to buy something, and they look at you like a alien.
Yes.
And they put people off.
Yes.
But I have experience, but I've got thick skin, so I cannot speak perfect English, but I do demonstration. They say that's what I want. But not everybody's saying, because I deal with asylum in Sheffield many years ago, and I know how they feel. They say, oh, we prefer here, but we will get there, because nothing happened near to us. But in Lincolnshire, they have a group of in Philippines and Indonesia, and they go to Nottingham. They not go to Skegness. They have little group in Lincoln, and they move up to join the party in Nottingham. So it's it's something is, what in my opinion is how they're looking for like, you come here, it's a small group, it's a home, feel it. You might give them a nice accommodation, really nice, but lonely. Then educated, the mental health and how, that's hard going. So,
Yes, it is.
thank you very much. Really good. But I want to make, to point it out, why did not why Lincoln? Because if you look at the whole thing, what Lincoln got, field, and what Peterborough got. I'm scared, chain going there, lots of us. That's the difference. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Fields are nice, mate.
I know.
Go on.
Thank you very much. It's just a little bit more of the same. It's not direct, but the first Pakistani name went on to the roll in Peterborough electoral roll in 1959-60. And then because of international political conflict, there was a massive influx of the Pakistani community into Peterborough, where I used to live, which is basically Gladstone Street, Russell Street, moving out to Dogsall. Very interesting to see where that's evolved, because now the bulk of the city centre is a Pakistani and increasingly probably Muslim community. And they've moved from what could probably only be described as ghetto conditions in the time that I was working there, which was in the early 70s and mid 70s, to moving into very affluent areas. So Peterborough is a very significant Muslim. I think it's a city. It is a city. It is a very significant Muslim city. So I understand why they want to go. My question was, we're in another trend now. This is really what I was bringing up at Children's the other day as well, because we've got a similar issue emerging in Boston. And my question was, is there something we can do to integrate that emerging community with our systems in Lincoln? We won't stop them going to Peterborough because this is a pun, but not really funny. It's the Mecca for them, for certain communities, because they've retained incredible links with their communities at home, and they want to come to Peterborough because they know someone, exactly what you talked about. But I'm just saying, is it incumbent on us to think about how we integrate those communities better into Lincoln to make an alternative draw? That's all. But that's a bigger question than the corporate parenting panel, but it is a really interesting issue, and we won't address that unless we won't address the issue of internal migration to Peterborough unless we understand and promote an equivalent offer of integration within Lincoln and Boston, which is the bit that I'm tripping about. Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you, Lisa. Very important. Today's meeting there's not a lot of gender items, so it's been good. It means we can allow the time to discuss. So I would enjoy your report.
Oh, thank you.
I propose that the panel has reviewed the report and endorsed the Leaving Care Service 6 monthly update report. Can I ask you to raise your hand if you're in agreement? That's great. Thank you once again, Lisa, to you and all the team.
Thank you.
That's super. It did just remind me that something that Andy and I and others have been working on about getting our care for young people into this building, so we can work with them. Sorry about Barclays Bank, Bank of England, Barclays. Maybe a bit jealous. We need to push on with, now with Paul as well, to get them more inclusive in this. I think that bit didn't so we've all done that, so that's great. That was agreed. So we move on to item 8, corporate parenting panel work programme. This item on pages 85 to 88 of the agenda pack enables the panel to comment on the contents of its own work programme. The report will be presented by Tracy Johnson, Senior Scrutiny Officer. The corporate parenting panel is invited to review and approve the work programme and highlight any additional activity that could be included for consideration. Excuse me. In the work programme. Obviously, there's a couple of things I think come out of today. To you, Tracy.
Thank you very much. So yes, I'll follow up with offers regarding the different items that come out today's meeting to put the working programme into future meetings. The next meeting is on the 14th of March. We currently have 3 items to that agenda, which is the virtual school annual report for 22-23 from Sarah, the children care performance measures Q3 from Tara, and the fostering quarterly performance report Q3 from Deborah. That's it. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments on that? Nope. Great. So that concludes this discussion. I propose that we approve the work programme as detailed on pages 85 to 88 of the agenda pack, and with the 2/3 additional items to add on it. Can I ask you to raise your hand if you're in agreement? Yeah, that's everybody. So that is great. Thank you. That's agreed. Thank you, everybody. That's the end of today's meeting. Don't know what the time is. I'm going to watch.